The champagne was still cold in my hand when the phone rang, slicing through what should have been the quietest night of my life. I had just finished unpacking, ready to watch the ocean through my new living room windows when I heard my son's voice. "Mom, we need you to move upstairs," Tyler said, as if he were discussing weather. "Sloane's family flies in tomorrow, so they'll take the master suite and the main bedrooms. You'll be fine in the guest room." For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. The same son I'd put through business school, helped rescue from failed ventures, and supported through 2 career changes was now giving me instructions in my own home. He kept talking, justifying it as family sharing space efficiently. I let him finish. Then, quietly, I said, "Tyler, this is my house." He didn't apologize. Instead, his tone sharpened, like someone reminding an employee who signs the checks. That was the moment I decided to let them think they'd already won. For 30 years, I built Blake Puerto Rico from a folding desk in my apartment into a boutique agency that handled national campaigns. I missed birthdays, holidays, and entire seasons chasing deadlines. When I finally sold the firm, after taxes and bonuses, the number sitting in my account was $2.7 million. Enough, I thought, to buy peace. I found the house in Cape Haven by accident, a weathered cedar and glass home perched high above the dunes. From the deck, the horizon stretched so wide it felt like breathing for the first time in years. 6,000 square feet of sunlight, salt air, and silence. I imagined mornings with coffee and seagulls, not conference calls. I imagined dinners with family, maybe even forgiveness. The first night I stood barefoot on the deck, I thought, this is what freedom feels like. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that hums quietly underneath your ribs. I'd given my son every advantage, and I believed we'd finally reached the stage where I could just be his mother again, not his safety net. But I was wrong. Peace, I realized, doesn't protect itself. It has to be defended sometimes from the very people you love most. The next morning, Tyler called again. His tone was smoother this time, coated with false patience. "Mom, it's just practical. You have all that space and Sloane's parents already booked flights. It's only fair we all enjoy the beach house together." He paused, waiting for agreement. When I didn't answer, he added softly, living alone in a place that big isn't safe. "Maybe it's time to think about help. There's a nice retirement community nearby." There it was, the threat disguised as concern. The same tone his father once used when explaining why my ideas in marriage were too emotional. I stared out at the water, calm and endless, and something inside me shifted. He thought I'd fold out of guilt or fear, but I didn't build a company by surrendering to pressure. After we hung up, I opened a fresh notebook and wrote 3 names. 1. Nina Park, attorney. 2. James Holloway, accountant. 3. Gabe Rios, investigator. Then I wrote one sentence beneath them: let them get comfortable. I would give Tyler exactly what he wanted: a chance to underestimate me. I had learned long ago that the easiest opponent to defeat is the one who believes he's already won. The sound of car doors slamming woke me before sunrise. From my upstairs window I watched a convoy of rental SUVs crawl up my driveway. 7 a.m. sharp. No warning, no courtesy call, just engines, laughter, and the scrape of luggage wheels on stone. Sloane stood outside directing everyone like a wedding planner on caffeine. Mom and Dad, master suite. Rachel, upstairs guest room. Kids, take the den, she barked, waving a printed room chart. Her mother, Diane, marched straight through the front door without knocking, wheeling her suitcase down the hallway as if she owned the place. I stayed quiet, watching as bodies and voices filled every corner of my house. My kitchen became a buffet station. The living room turned into a playground. Wet footprints patterned my Italian marble floor like stains of entitlement. "Marion, will need the fridge cleared out," Sloane called cheerfully, already unloading my groceries. "Mom's gluten-free, the kids are picky. You don't mind, right?" I smiled faintly. "Of course not," I said, even as my favorite coffee beans hit the trash. They believed silence meant surrender. It didn't. It meant calculation. By noon I was a ghost in my own home. But ghosts, I reminded myself, see everything. And I was taking notes on every single detail they would soon regret. By mid-afternoon, the chaos downstairs sounded like a hotel lobby at peak season. Diane complained about towel quality, Sloane reorganized my pantry, and Tyler texted me, "Remember, Mom, we're guests too. Try to relax." Relax. That word almost made me laugh. Instead, I slipped out quietly, car keys in hand. I had errands to run. At the hardware store, I bought a new set of locks, a keypad system, and a small fireproof box. The clerk joked, "Storm prep?" I smiled, "Something like that." Next stop was the phone company, where I adjusted my service plan and added security alerts to all my accounts. At the bank, my manager confirmed the house's ownership structure solely under my name and walked me through additional safeguards. "You'd be surprised how many helpful relatives cause financial trouble," he said knowingly. Back home, Sloane's family was setting up for dinner like they'd lived there forever. I carried groceries past them unnoticed and went straight to the garage to make a few calls. Nina, my attorney, picked up on the first ring. "Just confirming," I said. "I still hold full deed rights to the Cape Haven property, correct?" "You do," she replied. "Perfect," I said softly. "Then it's time to let the party begin." The next morning, Sloane cornered me in the kitchen, armed with a bright smile and a clipboard. "So we're hosting a barbecue tomorrow night," she announced. "About 30 people. Some of Tyler's business contacts, a few friends and neighbors we've met. It'll be great exposure for the house." "Exposure?" I echoed. She nodded eagerly. "You'll love it. We'll need more steaks, drinks, maybe a few tables outside. I texted you the list." I checked my phone. Sure enough, 10 pounds of prime beef, champagne, seafood, decorations, all totaling more than a wedding reception. Tyler appeared, handing spare keys to 2 of his friends. "They'll help set up," he said casually. "This house is perfect for entertaining. Everyone's impressed by what we've built here." What we've built. That phrase landed heavier than it should have. I forced a polite smile and said, "If we're doing this, let's do it right." That night, when everyone was asleep, I sat at my desk scrolling through contacts until I found one I hadn't used in years: Tom Morrison, owner of a luxury catering company. "Tom," I said when he answered, "how fast can you handle a last-minute beachfront event?" 30 guests. Money's not an issue." I smiled at the ceiling. "And Tom, make it unforgettable." By 6 that evening, the first thing everyone heard was the rumble of engines in the driveway. A fleet of white catering trucks rolled up like a small army. Men in black uniforms unloaded silver trays, glassware, and folding tables covered in white linen. Sloane blinked in confusion. "Marion, what's all this?" "Oh, just dinner," I said pleasantly. "If we're having a party, let's make it special." Moments later, Tom Morrison himself appeared, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Blake, where would you like the champagne station?" Tyler's brow furrowed. "Champagne station?" "By the pool," I said, "and please use the Dom Perignon, not the house brand." The guests began whispering as they watched the transformation unfold. Within minutes, my deck looked like a luxury resort: white candles flickering, polished cutlery gleaming under string lights, servers gliding with trays of hors d'oeuvres. Tyler kept glancing at me, his expression shifting from pride to panic. He was calculating costs, and I could almost see the numbers spinning in his head. When dinner was served: lobster tails, filet mignon, imported wine, I raised my glass and said, "To family, and to never underestimating each other." They toasted, smiling uncertainly. What they didn't know was that the real feast wouldn't come from the table. It would come from the bill I'd left waiting on the kitchen counter. The next morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen windows, exposing every empty bottle and crumpled napkin left from the night before. I found Tyler and Sloane hunched over the island, pale and whispering. The catering invoice sat between them, bold and unmistakable. $15,000, Sloane muttered. "For one night?" Tyler rubbed his temples. "It has to be a mistake. I'll call the bank." I poured myself coffee. "Good morning. Sleep well?" "Mom, we need to talk," Tyler said, holding up the bill. "We didn't agree to this." "Oh, but you did," I replied evenly. "You were managing the event, remember? Everyone heard you say it was your house and your project." Before he could argue, my phone rang. I put it on speaker. "Mrs. Blake," said a bright voice. "This is Janet Lowell from Cape Haven Realty. I received an inquiry yesterday from a Mr. Tyler Blake about listing your beach property. Is now a good time to discuss the sale?" The room went silent. I smiled politely. "That's odd. Mr. Blake isn't authorized to represent me in any real estate matters. Thank you for letting me know. I'll handle it." When the call ended, I looked at my son. "You wanted to play business. I said softly. Congratulations, Tyler. Now you're accountable like one. For a full minute, no one spoke. Then Diane stormed out of my master bedroom still wearing my robe, dragging her suitcase like a wounded soldier. We're leaving, she announced, glaring as if I'd ruined her vacation. That's an excellent idea, I said calmly, opening the front door. You all have 2 hours. The house erupted into chaos. Children argued, doors slammed, luggage tumbled downstairs. Sloan muttered about how I'd embarrassed the family, while Tyler made desperate phone calls trying to find a hotel with vacancies. I watched the scene unfold with the same quiet detachment I'd once used during corporate crises. When the last car disappeared down the drive, I finally exhaled. Inside, silence settled like dust after a storm. My phone buzzed. It was my attorney, Nina Park. Nina, I said, it's time. Transfer the house into the LLC we discussed. Blake Dunes, LLC, she confirmed. Management handled by Seabright Coastal Stays. It'll look like a high-end rental on paper. You'll still control everything. Perfect, I said, smiling at the waves beyond the window. They'd wanted to turn my sanctuary into a vacation home, so I did exactly that, just not for them. Peace wasn't something I'd lost. It was something I'd just redefined. 3 days later, I was enjoying my coffee on the deck when a white van pulled into the driveway. The logo read Coastal Care Services. A woman in scrubs stepped out, clipboard in hand, her expression polite but cautious. Mrs. Blake, I'm Janet Torres with Adult Protective Services. We received a report of possible self-neglect and financial exploitation. I need to do a welfare check. I didn't need to ask who filed it. Of course, I said, inviting her inside. Come in, Ms. Torres. You'll find everything in order. For the next hour, she checked my medications, refrigerator, and bank statements. She asked clear, professional questions, taking notes while I calmly provided every document she requested: property ownership, rental contracts, medical records, all labeled and neatly organized. When she finished, her tone softened. Mrs. Blake, everything appears completely normal. This report seems exaggerated. I smiled. Exaggerated is one word for it. She hesitated before leaving. May I ask who might have made the complaint? My son, I said simply. He's upset because I set boundaries. Janet nodded slowly. I'll close the case as unfounded. As she drove away, I stood on the porch, watching the ocean roll. Some people weaponize concern, others document the truth. I chose the second. That evening, as the sun dropped behind the dunes, I called Gabe Rios, the investigator who'd once handled corporate background checks for me. Gabe, I said, I need you to dig into my son and his wife. Finances, loans, anything public and verifiable. He didn't ask why, he just said, give me 48 hours. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my door. Inside were neatly typed reports, credit summaries, and screenshots that read like a confession. Tyler's design studio was 3 months behind on rent. Sloan had maxed out 4 credit cards to fund their vacations and home renovations. They'd even applied for a home equity loan, listing expected inheritance from me as collateral. But the worst part was buried near the end. 6 months earlier, Tyler had consulted 3 elder law attorneys about conservatorship options for an aging parent with declining judgment. He'd been planning to take control of my assets before the beach house was even purchased. I sat for a long time staring at those words. Not angry, not shocked, just resolved. I called Nina Park next. File everything, I said quietly. Restraining orders, documentation, the works. She exhaled. Understood, Marion, he won't see this coming. Neither, I thought, did I until now. 2 weeks later, I sat across from my son in the glass conference room of Nina Park's law office. Tyler looked nothing like the confident man who had once strutted through my home. His shoulders slumped, his eyes ringed with exhaustion. Before anyone spoke, Nina spread a stack of documents across the table: financial records, screenshots, transcripts, and a copy of the APS report. Mr. Blake, she said evenly, these materials show a clear pattern of harassment, exploitation attempts, and false claims against your mother. You are exposed to both civil and criminal liability. Tyler's hands trembled. I was just trying to protect her, he said, glancing toward me. Dad told me before he died that Mom wasn't great with money. I thought she'd get taken advantage of. Protecting me? I asked quietly. By impersonating me to realtors? By reporting me to social services? His face twisted, part guilt, part anger. You wouldn't listen. You're sitting on a house worth millions, alone, when you could be helping family. I leaned forward. Helping family doesn't mean surrendering everything you worked for. It means being respected. Nina closed the file. You have two choices, Mr. Blake. Walk away now and never contact your mother again, or this becomes a public case of elder abuse. Tyler swallowed hard. I'll leave her alone. For the first time in months, I believed him. A month later, the house was peaceful again. The only sounds were the hum of the ocean and the laughter of new guests, the Harrison family, my first official renters through Seabright Coastal Stays. They were kind, polite people from Vermont. On their first day, Mrs. Harrison knocked gently before entering the kitchen. Mrs. Blake, we just wanted to thank you. The house is beautiful. Please tell us if there are any rules we should follow. Her words almost made me laugh. Rules? After what I'd endured, respect felt like a miracle. That evening, as I watched their daughters build sand castles below the deck, I realized the irony. The strangers in my home treated me like family, while my own son had treated me like property. The rental income rolled in steadily, $8,000 for 2 weeks, booked solid through the summer. But money wasn't the victory, peace was. For the first time in years, I slept without waiting for the next demand, the next guilt-laced phone call. The ocean outside my window wasn't just scenery anymore. It was freedom I had earned and finally learned how to protect. Peace lasted exactly 3 weeks before the next storm arrived. It came, as usual, through someone else's pain. Mrs. Harrison knocked on my door one afternoon, her face pale. Mrs. Blake, I'm so sorry, but someone's been calling our employers and even our daughter's school. They said you're unstable, that this place is unsafe. I felt the air leave my chest. Was it a man? She nodded. He said he was your son, Tyler Blake. Of course. When he couldn't attack me directly, he attacked what I'd built. She handed me a notebook. We logged every call. Numbers times what was said. We just didn't want to leave without telling you first. I thanked her, promising it would be handled. As soon as they left, I called Gabe Rios. I need proof, call logs, recordings, anything that shows harassment. We're filing charges. Then I called Nina, restraining order, elder abuse extension, and a harassment claim. He crossed the final line. Finally, I called Tyler. My voice was calm. We need to meet. Mom, can't we just? Today, I said. Or tomorrow, I let a judge handle it. 2 hours later, we sat face to face in Nina's office again. This time, I wasn't defending my peace. I was protecting it with teeth. The meeting was short. Tyler barely spoke as Nina slid the new restraining order across the table. His hands shook as he signed, eyes fixed on the document like it might burst into flames. When it was done, he whispered, I didn't mean to lose you. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me back to myself. 6 months later, a letter arrived through Nina's office, an apology from Tyler, carefully written, lawyer-reviewed, emotionless. He asked for family counseling, maybe a visit. I declined. The Harrisons returned that summer for their anniversary, and their laughter filled the house again. We hosted a small wedding by the shore that fall. The business thrived, but more importantly, so did my peace. Sometimes the family you build isn't the one you're born with. Sometimes love means saying no and meaning it. As I watched another sunrise over the Atlantic, I thought about everything I'd survived, the manipulation, the guilt, the loneliness, and realized I'd won something far greater than revenge. I'd won myself back. If this story speaks to you, share it, tell me where you're watching from, and remember, peace isn't given. It's chosen, defended, and earned every single day.